There she go. Coach,
What's up?
how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. A long day, but it's been good.
Long day, yes. And I'm Chicago, the Nike Nationals out there as well. So great basketball weekend.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I was watching some of the streams from out there. Some good basketball being played out there.
Yeah, it's exciting. They did really well.
Okay, okay. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. Um, so what's up, basketball fam? It's Coach Sadie's and Coach Cooper today. We are here talking about film breakdown with Coach Cooper from Russ College women's basketball program, and we're gonna let her go ahead and introduce herself. Tell us a little bit about what you got going on, Coach, because I know you also are the director of She Hoops organization, and you guys do a lot of different things with high school sports as well. So please tell me what you got going on, Coach.
Hey guys, thanks for having me, and thank you, Coach Sadie. Shout out to you for inviting me to your platform and just trying to grow and enhance the game of basketball on the women's side. So I'm Coach Cooper. I'm the current and new head coach at Russ College. So this will be my first season there. We're in the HBCU Athletic Conference down in Holly Springs, Mississippi. So I'm originally from Texas. This is year 17 for me. I've had some great coaching stops: Florida Memorial, Duncanville High School, South Oak Cliff High School, back home in Dallas, Texas. Just as you mentioned, I'm a part of director of operations for She Hoops, which is a grassroots um, showcase session platform between elementary and high school. So we have some great stops coming up. We got Phoenix. They just did Atlanta, and so we have Phoenix as the next stop at the end of the month. So excited for that. And then, like I said, I'm just coming from Chicago All Star and the Tournament of Champs for Nike Nationals. So busy, busy. I'm out here in DC right now. Going to Mystics game later today, but also just out here recruiting and meeting with some of these players in
That's
the
dope,
DMV.
bro. That's dope. That's
Yeah,
dope. Sounds like you've been a little bit of everywhere.
everywhere.
So how do you
And I
enjoy?
still not stop. Shout out to this weekend. I'll be in Jacksonville, Florida on
Oh,
Sunday. They're having a showcase out there for the Florida girls. So all the hot spots, this is the time. This is when we grind and get our recruits.
that's dope, Coach. That's dope. How does it feel, to have traveled so many years, in so many places? I mean, you said you was in it for 17 years. How does that feel? Being in the game for so long and being able to even just give your specialty to the game.
Yeah, it's been really good. I just love to see the growth of my athletes, and just to see them develop and to see them go on and be successful business owners, those that are still playing overseas, um, mothers now, like some of my kids from my Grand Prairie days are parents. So it's been a fun time to just see the growth of just these young women and who they grow up to be outside of basketball and when that ball stops bouncing.
Oh no, for sure, Coach. I would
Yeah.
say I'm about on my like sixth, seventh season of just coaching and being in the game a little bit more on this side of it, and just kind of watching my kids, come back and say, Coach, I'm a sophomore in college, and telling me how it's going, and just the ups and downs, and watching them go through life and become young women. That has been so inspiring. So I could definitely relate to you when you say like watching them become mothers and seeing them
Yeah,
succeed is definitely rewarding as a coach.
it really
So,
is.
but coach, give us one fun fact about you. One thing that nobody knows about Coach Cooper. What is one fun fact about you?
Fun fact, I can play the drums.
Really?
Yeah.
That's dope. That's dope. So did you play like when you were in church? Did you play or just for fun?
Wait, did I play where?
When you were like church or in a
That's
band or like
exact.
just for fun?
It was church. That's exactly where it was. It started at church. So Fairfield, Texas. We had to go in the summers, and so that's where I learned to drum. And I was out there on Sunday service getting it.
Listen, that's crazy because I was on the keyboard.
Really? That's funny. No,
Yeah,
that's cool.
I
So we
was
can do
like,
some things then. We got a little duo then.
yeah. Listen, we're gonna hit a couple shows. Bring the talents out to the world.
Right.
So, but coach, I'm gonna get into just our topic today, and our topic is more a film breakdown. And we know, like, as coaches, the kids they like to create their highlight film. They like to put the music behind the film and chop it up to their liking so that it looks like perfect for them. Now, I'm going to our first question. How do you use film to project what a recruit can become, rather than simply evaluating what they are right now?
So for me, film is big, especially with the high schoolers. Right now it's tough for them, unfortunately, getting recruiting and getting those looks. So their highlight films have to really show that they're able to come in to the collegiate level and compete right off bat. So for me, it's like footwork, their IQ, their reads, looking at what are they doing off ball is big with those high schoolers. So those three things: footwork, off ball rotations, and just movement. And then, of course, you always want to see the hustle.
Absolutely. I think a lot of times when I see kids post their highlights on Instagram and Twitter, a lot of them have, like, these perfect, oh, I just got to steal,
Hmm.
the 3-point shots, those kind of things. But one of the things that I've told my kids is to make sure you put everything in there, your rebounds, except,
Right,
like I think we talked about your free throws. Like, we don't want to see free throws.
right,
Like, every that those are things that are always going to be consistent, always going to be there. But you can't teach a kid to have a motor, like, a coach just said in the comments, that motor of diving for balls, going, getting up on somebody on defense and getting stops, after, and
right.
then going back and converting on that stuff. So,
Mhm.
we have to make sure that these kids are putting the right things that the coaches want to see in those film.
Yeah, especially based on position. So if you're a point guard, we don't want to, of course, we don't want to see the free throws, but as a point guard position, we want to see those passes, your ability to work the ball, your movement to get your teammates open. And then also like ball screens, how are you coming off of these things, and your shooting, for sure, and really just pushing that ball in transition. Again, so it's really based on your positions as well. So if you're looking at a post or a stretch four, like just showing your strengths, but also going ahead and highlighting your weaknesses too. And I don't mean that as far as like the whole clip, but you can just show
No, for
maybe
sure.
one or two mistakes. But if you had a good response to that. So I think that's the main thing, is like our body language. Because I rather see a kid maybe like blow a layup and then they came right back and then got the back tap. You know what I mean? Hold on, because it started raining. Um, so those kind of plays, and those are okay to have. Now, not everything, but really just so knowing what it is, um, and what you're supposed to be doing or looking for. So just highlighting those things.
No, for sure. I think it's one of those big things is understanding what coaches want to see from your position. Too.
Yeah.
You said something big, like as a point guard. You want to see how they're getting their teammates open, how they're reading the defense. How they're also knowing what plays to call. Because sometimes they
Exactly.
have to be able to read that and not always look for an answer from coach. Especially
Yeah.
at the collegiate level, as well too. Like, a lot of kids do not understand that. Is they're looking for the coach, like, hey, run this play, run four, run five out. But if you see your big man, having a ball in the paint and they got a
Hmm.
mismatch, then spread the floor, get them the ball, run a 2-man game on one side. Those different
Right.
things. Understanding how to give you guys film from their positions is super big.
Yeah. And it's also important to have those, being a good teammate, show them, hyping them up when you're on the bench or when you're getting subbed out, like, the positive touches, the high fives and the little back taps and those kind of things are important to highlight.
Absolutely, coach. Now, we're talking about highlights a little bit. Like when you click on an athlete's highlight film, what makes you keep watching? What makes a college coach want to continue to watch a highlight film and then want full film after that?
hmm Number one, a variety. I think sometimes you might have one good game, so you want your whole highlight to be off that game. No, you want to clip different games, different scenarios, and then just the type of shots. And again, it's different for positions. I might watch a post player's highlight a little longer than I can look at a shooting guard, or you're just out here draining threes, and it's like, all right, I done seen the first three, and then it's kind of the same type of wide open three. You know what I mean? Like show coming off the dribble, show you're attacking. So just different actions of you being able to score or facilitate. So not just from one game, and you're just highlighting that too. So you just got to keep it exciting, and keep our grasp our attention with those things.
Now, coach, do you think that the kids posting on Twitter and Instagram are those effective, or would you think a kid trying to email them, email the film, like how effective is each the platforms that they use to be able to get you guys, clips and highlights?
I say utilize everything. Because like now, yesterday, stuck in the airport for 4 or 5 hours. So I'm just going to Twitter and like looking at, highlight films for my 27s, 28s. But I also appreciate when I get it directly to my email, because that means you researched our school. So it's just, I say capitalize all platforms. And something I was letting you know, and we talked about this yesterday, was even the use of Huddle and things like Field Level, and having your highlight videos on those kind of platforms as well. But I am all for the Twitter, number one, Instagram, even with my page now. I don't have that many followers or anything like that, because I've just opened it up so that players can follow me on my social medias. But it's important, if there's a platform to get your face out there, do it. But
Mhm.
Instagram for sure, Twitter for sure, and then of course emailing that coaches, and that's that positive touch, and not even just with the generic. Hey, coach, this is my like personalize it. Hey, Coach Cooper, some is using your name, or just having your school or your mascot. And that might just be one little two edit that you can do.
No,
But it,
absolutely.
it shows like, all right, she ain't just sending this to everybody.
No, absolutely, and that's kind of one of the things that I talk to certain high school athletes, and I'm like, well, they're like, oh, coach, I want to go to college, and I'm like, well,
hmm
what are you doing on your end to to make sure that you're doing that? A lot of times I think they lean more so of saying, hey, my coach will get me out there, my coach is going to get me looks, my coach is going to do this, but a lot of times it's not just your coach, it's you.
You.
You have to put yourself on a platform, and then we become, your, resume, almost like,
Right.
your reference of saying, yes, this is what they do for us, and this is what, we work with them. And then not only that, like I talk to kids about just understanding of owning your weaknesses.
hmm
Don't hide your weaknesses, and then when you get to college and then, adversity hits and they say, okay, well, this is not what we expected.
Right.
Be confident in saying, okay, well, I need to work on this. This is where I'm, developing, and make sure that you're, giving that whole scenario of not just being like, oh, well, I'm just successful at this, because
hmm
anybody can, master shooting and, dribbling, but a lot of times owning up to your development and saying, okay, well, this is what I need to work on, coach, and this is,
Yeah.
the strengths of the things that I'm trying to get to. So, I think it's really big that, you say that, because, using, those platforms is super huge.
One thing, too, that I was just thinking of was even weight room. Like you don't have to put in a ton of weight room, but if you can squat or you can max something like really crazy, add that in there too. Like add that the strength and conditioning platform in there too, because especially with high school, because what I'm seeing with their freshmen is like when they're coming in and they're like, this is our strength and conditioning thing. Yes, you know what I mean? So if you're already in a good program and they are developing you in that way, add that aspect if you can.
Absolutely. Now you said a big thing, because yesterday I had some of my girls run a mile, and we, we were in the weight room, we're getting into it. And like I laugh because I'm like, they don't really complain anymore. They're kind of just like, man, come on, let's get this over with because I don't want to run. But it's like it emphasizes on the kids understanding how important it is to be strong when you do
Mm-hmm.
come in, because the girls are faster, they're stronger, and they're not. Sometimes some girls aren't picking you, like turning around picking you up off the ground while they're running, because the game is moving so fast. She
Right.
just said, one of my kids said she killed us in the weight room. I give that because of course, like, my master's is in kinesiology, so a lot
Okay.
of times it's easy for me to be able to evaluate a kid that I'm training and to say, hey, you
Mm-hmm.
need to work on this. Point guards need to be like, be here. I do push kids when they do come to me for group training and stuff, because I get them understanding, like, oh well, we're doing this for group training too. Absolutely, like, weights
Right.
and band work and all that other stuff is a big part of it. So you said a lot. Now, when an athlete watches their own film, coach, what
Mm-hmm.
should they be looking for that they won't find in a highlight reel?
When they're watching their own film, they're big, their off ball movement and like tracking the rebounds. I think those are the two things for me that it's just like constant movement, constant movement. If you're just stuck here standing, like what are you doing? You should be in some type of action, rise or lift, cutting without the ball. So really just paying attention to detail. And we watch film a lot at the collegiate level, especially in my program. It's like on the bus anytime. I'm big on maximizing our time. So when we travel, it's film session, like they have their videos, they're looking at it, but it's where do you like to score is big, knowing exactly, again, who you are as a player, getting to your scoring spots, and then looking at the defense, not necessarily the first person, but like that second defender. What kind of reads, playmaker reads, as I like to say, can you be making for the next game or the next scout?
No, for sure. So when they're watching, the film, as say, we're looking at a guard, right? What is one of the things that you would say to a guard that wants to go to the next level, that maybe, has struggled with, trying to be consistent at something? Like, what kind of advice would you give that kind of guard? And it could be a point guard, shooting guard, but what
Mm-hmm.
advice you would give to that guard that is trying to be consistent, but they watch film and it just can't, it's not sticking.
Yeah, so take a shooting guard for example. So if you're tracking your 3 point percentages or whatever, what are you doing to get to that spot, and then what are you doing with the ball? And is it pass? Is it the footwork? Was it your eyes? You took your eyes off the ball for a minute. You know what I mean? To look at the defense or those kind of things. Just in that moment, I think are big for them to write down and like keep track of and kind of understand. And then when they get to practice, those are the same scenarios that you want, not the little guided defense out there with the trainer, but actually working on those specific things that you can see from the game.
Absolutely. Now, guys, I know you guys are tapping in. I see you guys coming in and out a lot. If you have a question for Coach, you can put it in the chat. We're going to answer a couple questions today, before Coach clicks off. But Coach, you've been giving some really really great advice. I know film is super important to coaches, especially when you guys are recruiting. I know you guys use that as well too. So let's talk about like the transfers coming into your school, because I know we talk a lot about high school going in.
Yeah.
Now, say you have a transfer against a freshman, what are you looking for in that transfer, coming in, or what are you looking at when you're looking at film for that transfer? Because they're more vetted, so
Mm-hmm.
how do you gauge of, okay, I'm going to keep watching this transfers film?
Yeah. Efficiency. So when I'm looking at transfers, it's how efficient are you being, and what are your averages for like your rebounding. So if I'm looking at a post player, first thing I'm doing when I get a name, I go straight to the stats. Former school, what are your stats? What are the averages? And then I'll go and look at their film from there. You know what I mean? And so with the transfers, it's just like you said, it's not so much the fundamental, but it's going to be that truly just hooping to me, because there's some things that should just be kind of automatic, like with the mechanics of things that I'm looking for. So high school, you're looking for that footwork and things, but with the transfers for me, yeah, I'm still looking at how you're getting your base, but it should already kind of be established. So it's just the finishes. You know what I mean? It's again your efficiency. How many layups are you making coming down this way? Is it to the right? Um, are you in your bag? So being able to be diverse in movements and the ways that you're able to score or get your teammates open.
That's huge. That's it's something that I learned because because I was like talking to I have a kid that that I train that comes home and she was struggling mentally trying to figure out where she wanted to go and how she wanted to pursue that and one of the biggest things that we did talk about is she was a great shooter in high school and turned out to be a great slasher in college. Trying knowing how to get downhill, knowing how to get her, put her defenders on her back, at times, especially
Mm-hmm.
because she went from playing a PG to in high school because now she's a four because she's five
Okay.
nine,
Right.
so in her head, she's like, I've never did this before, but at the same time, it's kind of like that transition of understanding that you're playing in a need, at that
Mm-hmm.
time. So
And that's big, and that's where that film comes in too, because you said a good word for me. It's my system. So if I run a lot of for myself, pick and roll, if I run a lot of like pistol actions, DHOs, right? Then I'm looking for players that already kind of have that innate ability where I don't necessarily have to coach them up so much. Um, so I'm looking for what kind of players are going to fit into the scheme that I have. Now, if you're one of them teams, and they might just, green light shooting, everybody just shooting threes or whatever, then those are the things I'm looking for in that highlight video. But if I already got my shooters, I'm not necessarily looking at those things. It's like everything else.
absolutely. Now, our next question says, when you're evaluating a recruit's film, how do you distinguish between a player who is simply producing because they're the most
Mm-hmm.
talented athlete on the court and a player whose decision making, adaptability, and ability to impact winning would translate to the college level? I know that was a little bit a
Mm-hmm.
lot, but I wanted to get a little bit into, just making sure that, the kids understand the difference.
Yeah. Um, for producing, I wouldn't just watch that one video. So I'm not just going sticking with one highlight. I go and actually look for other games. And just kind of getting in the little gems. But when I look, I watch the best game. And how did you perform? Against and when I say best and worst, no, I'm not looking at blowouts. I'm saying like who AGP, who challenged you where you had to rise to the occasion. Those games. So I'll be really like I look at this. I might just check a few highlights just to see, well, how were you scoring? How many points did you have in there? How are you getting your teammates involved? But if it's something close, then it's like, all right, they made you hoop. So how did you respond to adversity? You know what I mean? They took your right hand. So how are you going to the left? Like what in-game changes were you able to make that were successful and where you did have a good outcome in the game? So
Absolutely,
I
coach.
look at multiple film for both for the producing and the decision making. So you might send me that one. You might have got my attention with the one, but I'm gonna go and I'm gonna find the others.
No, but I mean that's big though because you want to
Mm-hmm.
see that you want to see what a kid's going to do when they're not playing at their best potential. If
Right,
you're a consistent kid that's playing that's hitting 20 points a game or you're hitting 15 points, 20 rebounds, whatever. Like I want to now see, you go play against a top five,
right.
recruit. How are you responding to that? Are you still you still like you guys saying positive touches? Are you still giving positive touches? Are you still being a
Right.
good teammate? Are you still, being coachable in those moments? Because, as
Mm-hmm.
frustrating as it is, if a coach is already getting beat by 15, 10, 20, 15 points, and then like they're one of the players that make an impact isn't, really responding well, that becomes a struggle now. Because now
Right.
you're not just coaching just like the game, but you're coaching emotions. And
Exactly.
and one thing I've learned is emotion is harder to coach than skill.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of kids need to understand that when you show more emotion, instead of being passionate about the game, sometimes it could draw you guys away from that, push you guys away from wanting to have them. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that every kid, kids cannot just be emotional, because these are young
Hmm.
kids that we're talking about. But when you're
Hmm.
emotional and then you give bad responses, I think that's what it comes like. Okay, well, this kid is not a good person,
Right.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And that part too. And in some of those games, like if I'm watching a full length game, how are you responding to the refs and these calls? Because boy, that's a lot. And I'll be watching like the coaches too. Because a lot of the times your players, they're gonna mimic, or you're in a system, it's a culture that you bought in, and certain coaches that you play for. So for example, Cy Fair at Nike here in this last talk session. So it was a jump ball, right? Both teams are on the floor and they're scrappy. Ain't nobody blowing the whistle, but neither girl wanted to let go. So I would want to see if somebody put that in their highlight video, I'm like, okay, who is this right now? But then you turn and you pan out to the coaches and they're all hyping them up and all that stuff. But it's like those moments, if you have it, in your video, go ahead and add that too.
Absolutely, that's a big one. Like that's a
Yeah.
first because like I know a lot of people I've never really
Now,
seen.
I might end it, you can start it or end it like that. But just kind of throw it in there. So it's all just the placement of it. But I would like to see that because I
Yeah,
don't, and that's just my own, again, in my system. Because like for instance, in practice, I don't blow the whistle for jump balls. Like one of y'all gotta tussle, like y'all gotta get that ball, and then we start from there. And it may take them a minute, And it's like, well, who gonna be stronger? Who wants it more?
no,
And then
absolutely.
we'll reset from there. And then like sometimes I'll be like, all right, let's go. Especially with the practice players, getting them in there too. Then it's like, all right, it's been 2 minutes. Y'all still sweating hard, scrambling. But if you get that, go ahead and put those kind of hustle plays up in there though.
Absolutely. But people don't understand those are game changers though. That's a
Yeah,
high
that's
energy game.
momentum change. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's you now giving us the momentum to be able to come back
Hmm.
and say, okay, well, we're all now together. Like, it's kind of one of those things where kids don't really understand like that
Hmm.
that momentum is kind of the shift that we look for as coaches when you're trying to, get to the game. A tight game, you're down by two or you're up by two and
Right.
you could keep that energy going. Those are big momentum thing changes that people do not understand. And not even just the kids, but the parents. The parents are
Not for
thinking,
real.
oh, they're being scrappy, they're trying to fight. No, we're just they're competing.
Right.
So, but I think the biggest thing that kids have to understand in this process is understanding what it is that you guys need and what it is that you guys are looking for. To
Hmm.
be a collegiate athlete, right? So
Right.
we're gonna get a little bit into the Q&A. So we got a couple questions, guys. If you got more questions, make sure you hit it into the comments. So we got one question. It says, which is the more valuable source, AAU or high school connections, and when it comes to evaluating a player?
It depends on the squad. Both of them are valuable, and yeah, both of them are valuable. Both of those connections can get you into places because it's going to be based on their recommendation and their referral or their word of mouth, and what they have to say about you. So really, it just depends on the person and what their network is looking like. But they're both valuable sources to have when it comes to evaluating a player. Yeah, because I would say like your high school connection, high school evaluation, they're with you more, you're with them more, you're in their system more. um AU, I just feel like certain programs or certain teams, it's not that much development there, so, and you don't have time to do so because you're on the, we're, for me, AU is we're bringing our best from the region or city or whatever together. um so yeah, both of them are equally as important.
Now, when you say, with development in AU, how important is the summer piece? Like, what would you tell a high school kid,
It's
to do during
important.
the summer?
Yeah, no, you got to get on a team. You have to be playing somewhere. Now, does it have to be EYBL? No. Like, for instance, I'm out here in DC. I'm not going to another big tournament, but there are some small local tournaments here that they're putting on that kids could go under the radar for. And then also like getting involved with your summer school program. So if they have like summer leagues, like back in Dallas, they have a summer league that goes for eight weeks, for within their high school team, or not 8 weeks, but 3 weeks or so. But I would pull up to those games too, as long as you're playing and it's organized basketball and they just out here, like you should be playing all year round, I feel like, and being seen. So if you can get on the AU circuit, great. Or even
Now, this is just my
just tournaments and pro like camps. That's the biggest thing, and that's why I'm on the road so much. So get into camps. If I'm not playing a big EYBL circuit, make sure you're at these local camps.
absolutely, absolutely. A lot of times, the kids, when I'm talking to kids and they say, "Hey, I'm gonna play with this team, or go here." I ask
Hmm.
them to, sometimes ask your coach questions. Hey, coach, like, how do
Right.
I get myself out there, to be able to be recruited? Because
Hmm.
like you said, like some of these AAU teams, they are not challenging the kids. They're not trying to put the kids on, the certain developmental, aspect of knowing what they need to work on to be recruited,
Right. Hmm.
putting the kids in successful spots on offense,
Yeah.
and defense, understanding those things. So, one of the things I try to encourage kids to do is ask your coach questions. If you're playing, like the three, and you're used to playing the one now, it's kind of like, okay, well, coach, what do you need from me? What do you want? What do I
Hmm.
need to do in this? What is a true, shooting guard, supposed
Right.
to do? A lot of kids don't know the role of what they're doing. So I think that you hit a great point on that. Like it needs to be more development in the summer. Like kids need to really focus on making sure they're in somebody's gym during the summer and not just doing
Hmm.
anything, but working on the things that they are trying to achieve.
Yeah, and when you say that, it's going back to film session too. So really just knowing, and for instance, Aaliyah Boston, they did a panel out here, and she was saying that the I guess the beginning of the season, her 3-point shot percentage has gone up. Well, all in off season, well, the end of the last season, she had a conversation with her coaches. What can I do, to have a bigger role or to develop over the summer? And if it was that, then that's exactly what she spent the majority of her time doing in the gym. And it's not just in there goofing around, like, let me just throw it, but game reps, going game speed, and putting herself in those live situations that she would need. And now the proof is in her stats. So you can see, I can't remember exactly what it is off top, but it was noteworthy to be brought up. And I guess I can't remember if she's leading post players in threes efficiency or something like that. But it's a you can see the increase from last season. But again, to your point, having a conversation with that coach and what is it that you need from me?
Facts, coach. Now I know we're getting to the end of our stream. I want to ask you. I know you say you're the director of She Hoops. And we
Mhm.
talked a little bit about your showcases. Just to kind of give the kids a little I guess you say overlook of what you do with that. Can you kind of talk a little bit about of like why it's important to do those kind of showcases as a high school athlete trying to be recruited?
Yeah, well, shout out to Justin Turner. So he's the CEO of She Hoops. He developed in Dallas, Texas, and now it's international. So he runs about 6, 7 camps throughout the year, different locations, and he goes to the hot spots like Phoenix, uh, Florida, Texas, of course, Atlanta. We did U.S. Virgin Islands when I was out there, but that is just he's an evaluator, a well-respected evaluator, and so he's a lot of the time these kids for the newcomers, it's their first evaluation that they have and that they're able to look at. So similar to film and your study, it's the same thing as he'll write a report, of why other coaches putting other coaches on their radar pretty much, and like letting his network and letting everybody know, like, hey, you might want to know about this little Susie Q down in Memphis or wherever they are. Um, so it's really important to get in on those camps when they come locally. And you can even start like with WNBA. So like the Dallas Wings, they do youth camps too. And a lot of times it's the first introduction, but you're also getting some good skills and development from coaches that know what they're doing, pro coaches. But then you also, it's a fun aspect of it. Like that's your time to make friends, where it's not so uh, what is it? Not so stressful. Like some of these camps you go to, you gotta. It's either I'll be back tomorrow, or it's like, dang, it's some competition in here. You know what I mean? So it's really about just finding what it is that you're trying to develop, um, and going from there. But and these are you can Google or you can follow them on social media, and then just see like CP3 does some great camps. PGC basketball, I always recommend PGC, especially for those that want to play at the collegiate level, because they have like commuter camps, they have overnight camps that give you a day in the life. Like you wake up 7, they have study hall, your film session, you're in the gym all day, you go to lunch, you come back, but it's like a full schedule all in. And a week of PGC, that's going to let your kid know, like, all right, this is something I want to do, or I'm cool, you know? Yeah.
No, they don't.
But it's
I tell
important. It's important socially, and then you just get to meet other people and be around so many different levels and skill levels, and that's important for other kids to see too, and just to be around.
right. Yeah, they don't. The kids don't know about that 7 a.m. We got to get up and then go to your study hall. Right after study
Man.
hall, you might have weights or class,
Mhm.
and oh
Mhm.
my. Sometimes I'm like I miss it, but sometimes I'm like, man, I don't know if I
Yeah.
miss it that much.
Right.
So but coach, I definitely want to I definitely appreciate you being on our platform and taking the time out. I know you guys are busy in this hard recruiting season right now. So I definitely want to thank you for taking the time out to be here. Guys, so make sure you go and follow at Coach Cooper, and Rush College women's basketball. Make sure you follow them, throughout the season and for the future, of Rush College. Make sure that you guys are following Coach Cooper and her journey and all the things that she's doing. She's doing so many amazing things. You guys don't want to miss out on these things and the connection that you made to be able to just watch college basketball. That's a big part of it. As well. So I hope you guys enjoy our session. We will be doing a part 2. It will be a Zoom workshop where Coach Russ will be breaking down actual film. If you are interested, we will be putting the link in the bio. And it'll be a little bit closer towards, the fall season. So please be looking towards that, and hopefully, Coach, you guys, you be safe out there.
Thank you.
And I hope you are getting what you found. I mean, look, I just
Yo,
messed
I'm
up.
reeling them in.
Yeah. Go ahead. But I cannot wait to meet you in person one day. Hopefully I get to see
Yes.
you because I'm actually going to be in Jacksonville this weekend, so hopefully I can stop by.
Oh yeah, I'll
Turn
send you
in.
the
So
camp on Sunday. Maybe we
okay,
can do some
okay,
live then. We can talk to them then too.
absolutely. Let's
Yeah.
do it. Let's do
All
it.
right. I'll
All
send you
right,
the link.
cool. Okay. All right, guys. So make sure you tap in. We will be putting a replay on YouTube. So make sure you give us about 2 days and then go check our YouTube link and watch our clips. We see you guys and thank you. Have a good one, Coach.
Bye. Thank you for having me.